Jamie, the perfect wide receiver at Notre Dame. What do you want him to look like? Again, for people, we're going back to basically 2010, the 2010s. We're not going to go too far back here. We're just going to use those wide receivers. You know what? Let's go back further for this because we need to include guys like Samardzija and Stovall. Let's go back to the 90s. How about that for this one? Because we might want to include like Derek Mays. You might want to have on the docket. So, what do you want your perfect wide receiver to look like size wise? What player do you want him to? What kind of what do you want him to look like? For linebackers, we chose Jalen Smith for this.
I mean, size wise, I don't think you could pick anyone but Chase Claypool. The guy's a freak. He was like anyone who's ever seen Claypool in person too. Like he is different. Like he is just like. I mean, obviously Notre Dame has had a lot of big receivers, big bodied guys. Micah Floyd was also like just a beast of a guy. But even compared Floyd to Claypool, he just wasn't as big. Like he just wasn't as big, wasn't as like jacked. Like Claypool just had like a body that it was just like this guy is just like a absolute freak show. He was just a total freak show. So I mean, and he's like 6'4", 6'5", 220 pounds, and just we don't even have to get into the speed. We're just talking about the body. He's got long levers, just a massive dude. Looks like a guy who could play like defensive end, really. So I mean, I'll go with Claypool.
You definitely want him to look like that. I think in the chat there were some people who mentioned Michael Floyd. I was thinking of Kevin Austin just because of his physique. I mean, he's physically very built, but I think Claypool is the answer. That's what you want it to look like, right? Like just kind of a lot of things going your way. Stout. I mean, the guy 238 at the combine, right? That's what it looks like. So let's go with the Claypool for size. What about hands? What kind of hands you want? My first thought is you go Golden Tate here. The guy had a pair of hands that you just couldn't believe. He would snatch the ball out of the air. I mean, it's like hands high pointing, Hail Marys, right? Catching the ball at the catch point and just holding the ball there. He doesn't even have to bring it into his body. He can't get the ball out of his hands. I just thought he had the best pair of hands of any Notre Dame wide receiver in recent memory. I got to go with Golden Tate here. Do you have another answer?
I don't think you can go with anyone but Golden Tate. Like, man, like just exactly like you said. And to be someone at his size and to win the number of contested catches that he did at that size, like, I mean, even if you're talking about when he was in the NFL, like it's him and Steve Smith as like smaller, like sub 6 foot contested catch guys. I can't think of other guys who really, can compare really. So, George Gipp Claypool was a 4-star, by the way. But anyways, it doesn't matter. But
he was actually a high 4-star.
Yeah, he went to the opening and stuff. He was a pretty hyped guy. But I think, I mean, Samardzija was mentioned in here too. I have Samardzija in a different category. So but he obviously he had pretty soft mids too.
Yeah. Speed.
Can we just go say Will Fuller and just move
We're gonna say Will Fuller.
There hasn't been anyone who was as close to him in terms of just like that electricity, that kind of speed. I mean, I guess you could say Rocket, like him and Rocket Ismail, like it's so someone said Rocket Ismail, sure. But just even the way that Rocket was used, like it's like he wasn't even really used as like almost like a traditional receiver. So I have no problem with making it a slash Fuller Rocket if you want to do that. But like to me, like Fuller just stands out. Just you can't get it out of your head him cooking Adoree Jackson. think about it a lot. It's just one of those things. It's like, man, he really did just absolutely blow by him.
There's Rocket, right? Here's the thing with Rocket. Most of his plays that you're thinking of right now, you're thinking of the kickoff returns against Michigan.
Return game, yeah.
You're thinking of the punt return against Colorado. You're thinking of kickoff return against Miami, right? You're thinking of a bunch of runs, right, that he had. Where is the one, and this is the nature of the offense, where is the one where it's like, man, he ran a post and just lit this dude on fire? Like a good player, you know, like you, it doesn't really exist, right? Because they just didn't have that. And Fuller, I mean, you got guys with 10-yard cushions in their pedal, and he's running by them. I'm telling you, some of his like posts and go routes are just as impressive as you'll ever see from any player, from any program. Just barbecuing guys. Love watching it.
I just want to add this in too, because as Rajon mentioned, Rocket with the ball in his hands, because I think that's where you would put Rocket, right, is after the catch.
Yeah.
Rocket was just born too early. If he played in this kind of more modern era, this guy would be catching bubble screens and doing all this and just killing people. Killing people. Like, oh God, I wish we got to see him. It's like one of those things too, where you're like, if Michael Vick played in this era, you'd be like, oh, I mean, he'd be a different kind of player. And there's obviously a lot of Notre Dame guys you could say that about too, right? Like Jarius Jackson, always a guy that I think like, man, this guy would have been way better in this era than he was in his era. But Rocket for sure, after the catch, the ball in his hands. And that's the thing, like in the return game, you saw it obviously. And because he had that electric speed, but he also was like a guy who could he could run away from people, but he was like strong enough to break tackles and stuff too.
He would take direct shots and bounce off them. It was actually one of it. And Golden Tate kind of had this skill too. The small guys, he would get like the touchdown against Colorado and that was called back. He gets hit square by Chad Brown, who was an NFL linebacker for like a very long time, a good NFL linebacker. Yes. And he hits him square and Rocket just bounces off him and goes. He was incredible. There was another one that he runs like an inside run against Penn State and lowers his helmet and bucks this guy. And then he keeps going. For a small guy, incredibly elusive from a tackle breaking standpoint. Very similar to Golden Tate. Do we want to give Rocket run after catch?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We'll give him run after catch. You mentioned Samardzija. What category are you giving to Samardzija there?
I'm going body control.
Okay.
All right. He's the guy that it's like, we're throwing it. I got to get it into like the corner of the end zone. I'm putting it in the sideline. Like we're throwing it up and this guy's got to come down with it when he's got a guy draped all over him. Like he's the guy who could contort his body and make the diving catch and like tuck it in. Like, you think about that first big touchdown catch, or maybe it was the second one against Pitt in that opener that season. But like, he just had just phenomenal body control because he was such a smooth athlete. And, obviously you could say like, because you're not going to give him the hands part. You're not going to say like, the high point, but to me, no one had a better body control than him.
Yeah, he had those kind of instincts with his body. Like he knew when to get small. He knew when to kind of shift his hips a little bit. Like some of his run after catch stuff, like I would include in body control too. And just how like he could run a slant, catch it, stop, and get outside. Like he was very good at that. Like the high pointing, like you say. That was like a body control thing for me. And so I don't think he had better hands than Golden Tate did, but I think he's probably second in that. For a baseball player, I thought his instincts as a wide receiver in terms of how to use his body were top notch. And so I think that's a good shout. I would go for that as well. Next, kind of playmaking clutch. right? That I kind of put him in the same kind of category. I'm going Derek Mays for this, and so that's why I wanted to do it, because he actually had like a good amount of drops. Like if you go back and watch, he'll drop a pass, right? But he had some of the best numbers against like really good corners that you like, you kind of forget about that stuff. Like cooked Samari Roll with Tom Krug as his quarterback, right? He's cooking Samari Roll in the Orange Bowl. Cooked Bryant Westbrook against Texas a number of times. Cooked Chris Hudson in the 94 Fiesta Bowl. Chris Hudson won the Thorpe Award that year. He gave him over 100 yards, and I think he had a couple of touchdowns in that game. Ty Law, cooking Ty Law. He just had some of the best kind of games in those big moments. Sean Springs at Ohio State in 1995. Like, just, man, he's just doing it against like top 5 picks in the draft. His catch against Michigan that gets wiped out because Michigan goes down and kicks the field goal. Like one of the best catches in the back of the end zone in that game. Clutch play. His catch against Boston College, kind of to complete the comeback. He didn't make the touchdown catch, but they hit the long post to him. He's doing the thing where he's like turning his body. Great catch, great clutch catch. Kind of his coming out party against Boston College. That kind of gets wiped out from memory because Boston College win the game with the field goal. But I just feel like he had so many of those moments where it's like, man, what a big time catch in a big time moment against a big time player. And so, like, attitude, playmaking, clutchness, I'm giving it Derek Mays.
I like that. I think that's probably the right one, because if you're looking for like a big game receiver, it's tough to find somebody that I think you would say is better than him. I mean, obviously there's a lot of these guys that I think it's kind of sad that Notre Dame hasn't had guys that we could talk about on the current team that are like this, because man, they had a lot of guys who were just fantastic.
Yeah. Last one, blocking. Who do you have for this? I have a sneaky one. For blocking. Best blocker.
Blocking. Wow, I didn't even think about blocking.
It's important, Jamie. You gotta have it. I have a good one.
I think Mo Stovall probably. Like, Mo Stovall was a good blocker.
It's good.
He was a good blocker. A guy who gave good effort. Obviously, was big. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I know there's like I know I'm missing someone who's obvious. I don't know. Who you got?
Rajon got it. It's Lake Dawson. 100%. It's Lake Dawson.
Very underappreciated player.
You know what? Here's a fun thing to do. If you want an excuse to go back and watch the 93 Florida State game, watch that game and just watch Lake Dawson blocking Corey Sawyer. He has him in hell all game. Corey Sawyer wants no part of sticking his head in there, and Lake Dawson just beats him up for the whole game. It is funny. It is so funny how, man, he is just riding him. It's tremendous stuff. Derek Mays was good in that game as well, but there's just a lot of good. Rajon nailed it. There's just a lot of good stuff from him. So, Lake Dawson got to rep him. Longtime wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs as well. Okay, so we've got size.
Wait, I want to add one thing, because I don't think you can't have one of these lists and not have Michael Floyd be one of the things. And I honestly too, if I need one play, I need a first down here.
One play for the national championship. One play for the national championship.
I need a first down, or it's 4th and 5 at the 6-yard line, fourth and goal at the 6-yard line. I'm throwing the ball to Michael Floyd. Like, I know he is going. I know they know the ball's going to him. He knows the ball's going to him. I think he's going to get it. He's the guy that I want. He's the guy that with the most grit, where that if you threw it short of the goal line, he is going to will his way through it. He is, because he was a little bully like that too. So I think he's kind of got to be on there. Like, he was, his last 2 years totally underappreciated because they didn't have the quarterback play. But like, you wish that Jimmy Clausen would have stayed another year for multiple reasons, but just to have another year with him and Michael Floyd, oh my, like that would have just, Floyd would have just had, I mean, he already had 1,000 yards, he had 79 catches, whatever, but like he might have had like 1,400 yards if Clausen was throwing him the ball that year.
Yeah, that's I think that's fair take. I think that's a fair take. Floyd was the problem. I would have no problem throwing it the ball to Michael Floyd. The only thing I would say is Tommy Reese did kind of lose the Tulsa game throwing the ball to Michael Floyd, although that was
a bad throw.
Pass.
Let's be honest, it was a bad throw. It was not. That was not. You know what?
It was not a good throw.
I can tell you too, like, even though, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things you can get on BK for, but the idea of being like, hey, we're going to throw one up to Michael Floyd, it wasn't a horrible idea. It was just a bad throw.
It was. Honestly, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it at all. I really didn't. It just, you know, don't throw it there. Basically, it's just
very funny too to get used to it, and then he never tried.
And then he never did it again.
He never tried anything like that.
We did not get.
We didn't have to get used to it. He never tried it again.
Yeah. So all right, that was fun. All right.